back to the Finance, Fitness, and Positivity podcast. I'm Joseph Gissy, and today I am joined by Nina Cooke. Nina has helped 6- and 7-figure service-based experts to create an unstoppable mindset so they can build authority and boost their profit. Nina has worked with hundreds of established entrepreneurs, helping them to increase their income by up to 800%. She is the co-author of Renegade Mindset, a financial advisor's guide to a peak performance mindset, which I just bought, by the way, and the host of Entrepreneur's Inner Game podcast. Nina has interviewed world-class entrepreneurs and best-selling authors. She's been featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, on BBC Radio, and on many other top podcasts. Nina, thank you to the show. Very excited that you're here. Why don't we just start with giving your background and how did you become Nina Cooke of today?
What a good question. I came to be Nina Cooke of today through quite a long route. I had very low self-confidence as a child. I had a narcissistic sister. And for any of your viewers who've ever dealt with narcissist people in their lives, in their family, they'll understand exactly where I'm coming from straight away. So she was older than me. She loved to put me down in any way she could. And so my confidence was very, very low. And my chief aim as a child was to keep myself safe. And I figured out a strategy to keep myself safe. And the strategy was to stay out of sight. So I used to hide as much as I could. I didn't talk much. In crowds, it was easy just to hide and not say anything. So I tried to keep in the background as much as possible. Sure, I had some good friends and I had, a social life, but I was always faking it and never felt any authentic confidence within myself. And this carried on into my adult years because, as we know, our past experiences form our present moment decisions in life. And it had an impact. It had an impact in my relationships. It had an impact in my work. I worked for Time Life Books in the London office. I was very good at my job. I got excellent results. However, I missed out on promotions because I never put myself forward. I wasn't good at networking because I didn't have the confidence to network with people who I perceived to be of a higher authority than me. I had a real fear of people of authority because I always saw my sister as an authority figure. This continued. I had children and I knew that at some point I was going to have to do something about it, but I kept putting it off and putting it off. In 2005, I started my first online business. It was a personal shopping business. It grew quickly. I became nationwide. I had an amazing team of personal shoppers and makeup artists who'd go and do all the client work. I managed to market in a very anonymous way. I marketed through Google clicks. And so I didn't have to put any content out there. I found really good clients. I was good selling on the phone because I could be quite anonymous. I didn't have my name on my website. There were no photos of me to be found anywhere near my business. I managed to get some corporate clients. And I remember getting a really great corporate client. It was a big accountancy firm, one of the biggest in London. And they invited us to lay on a big do for their top female staff and their top female clients. I took along a team of 20 experts and we laid on personal shopping for them. We laid on makeup lessons, all this wonderful pampering stuff for them. We set everything up. Everyone was, queuing up to see their expert. And then there was nothing left for me to do. So I thought, okay, I'll use this opportunity to go and speak to some of the senior people in the company and see if I could book another gig with them. And I remember spotting 2 ladies, wearing very sharp tailored suits. And I thought I'll go over and speak to them and chat to them. And as I was walking towards them, a voice in my head said, "Don't go and talk to them, because if you do, they'll realize that you're not very good at what you do. And they'll think, why did they ever book you? So don't speak to them." So I quickly turned a sharp left. And I thought, okay, I need to hang out somewhere for the rest of the evening. And I saw a row of dark offices and luckily they were open. So, opened one of the doors and I went in there and I sat in the semi-darkness for the rest of the evening. on the way home, I went home on the train that evening, and it was dark November evening. And I remember looking at my reflection in the window of the train. And I thought to myself, you've done it again. You've let yourself down. You missed out on a great opportunity. And this has to stop. And it has to stop right now. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to figure this out, because I felt at that point that I was missing something that other people had. There was something within me that I didn't have, which was causing all my problems. And so I thought, I really need fixing, but I don't know how to do it. And I started looking around, and there was quite a lot of personal development stuff going out there. And obviously the internet made it very accessible. So I started doing trainings online. I went to trainings. I signed up for things. And I thought, I'm going to have to find something that doesn't just give me temporary change. I need something that gives me permanent change, because I want to feel confident. I want to feel good about myself, because I knew I was missing out so many opportunities. And eventually I got an email from a friend, and she said, you're into this personal development stuff. And this email was about limiting beliefs. And it led me to a guy in America. And he said, well, the only reason you feel like this about yourself is because you believe these limiting beliefs are true about you. And I thought, well, okay, I'll try anything. And anyway, we started coaching, and he identified some key self-esteem beliefs that I was carrying around, which I've been carrying around since my childhood, because a lot of our beliefs are formed in childhood. And there were beliefs like, I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me, I'm unlovable, I'm not wanted, all this really, really deep stuff that made me feel unworthy about myself. And he started helping me to dissolve these beliefs. And where I felt that they were true about me, after I was working with him for a while, I no longer believed that they were true. I could see them, they were absolutely false. And I thought, this is really interesting. I'm beginning to feel a bit different, but it was only when I wanted to start testing it out that I realized the difference in me. So for a long time, I'd wanted to make little promotional videos to put on the internet. And I'd always thought, oh, I can't do that. I'm not good enough to do that. I feel too vulnerable. People are going to criticize me. Other people are much better than me. And so I'd never done it. And then one day I thought, I'll just put out a little video. And it felt really easy to do. I didn't have a voice saying, don't do that, it's dangerous. And I put out a little video. It was a very grainy little video, terrible audio. But I was so pleased with myself. And I thought, this is changed. Something inside me has changed. And I felt more fearless. I felt I had much more courage than ever before. And I stopped worrying about what people were thinking about me. And I thought, this is really interesting. And logically, it really helped me to grow my business, my personal shopping business, because suddenly I was able to put content out there. I was able to talk about what I did and do more visible marketing. I felt I'd come to the end of that business. I was really intrigued about the impact it had on my business. And I thought, hang on a minute, if this can work for me, it can work for other entrepreneurs who are suffering unnecessarily by beating themselves up, self-sabotaging themselves. And that's when I started working with entrepreneurs. And it took me a while to really figure out what are the biggest challenges entrepreneurs face. And I started putting them into buckets. And it didn't matter if I was talking to someone who was just starting, or someone who had a six-figure business, or someone who had a multi-six-figure business, or even a 7-figure business. They all had challenges that fell into one or more of these buckets. So in a way, it doesn't matter what you do, because we all think, and we're all capable of tripping ourselves up and sabotaging ourselves. So this is the interesting thing. It doesn't matter what you do. It's all about what your beliefs are. So we can have we all have a mix of beliefs. We have a mix of productive beliefs and unproductive beliefs. But the decisions that we make in life today, in this moment, are based on past experiences and the beliefs we've made up about past experiences. This is a very dangerous way to live our lives, because we are basing our decisions, our limiting decisions, on absolute falsehoods that we've made up in our minds, these stories we've created, which simply aren't true about us. So I see my mission as helping entrepreneurs to, first of all, identify these limiting stories, because often we don't know what we're buying into, what we're believing to be true about us. And then once we identify them by, really digging deep, then to start dissolving these. And so I show my clients how to dissolve limiting beliefs and then how to plant new powerful beliefs in the subconscious. So when you're making decisions, you start making different decisions based on new empowering beliefs, which really help you to stretch your comfort zone. And that makes life a lot more exciting.
It's interesting how the things that happen to us when we're younger, how that can really impact us later in life. And you at least had the ability to identify that, later and get over it. I'm actually, pretty impressed that in 2005, you were doing personal shopping, online shopping, and had that business going. I mean, that was definitely ahead of its time.
It was, and it happened completely by accident. I had children and I didn't work when I had children. And then probably about 2004, I thought it's time for me to do something for myself. And this lady connected me with a personal shopper, and the personal shopper had a new TV show. So suddenly she was very busy doing her TV work and she wanted someone to run her personal shopping business. So she hired me to do it. I had no idea what to do, but I kind of learned her system, and I didn't enjoy working with her or for her. We weren't a good fit. And so I decided to quit after a few months, but I thought, I know how to do this now. And my husband said, well, why don't you do it for yourself? I thought, well, interesting. So I hired someone to help me to set up the business. And before I knew it, I had a personal shopping business. I kind of fell into it, but it taught me a lot about online marketing, online sales, how to create a business that I could grow without having to spend more hours working in it. So in that way, I felt that I cracked it. But what I hadn't cracked was visible marketing, because I was too scared to put myself out there. Once I got that bit going, then my business grew exponentially.
So you mentioned, you found somebody in the States that helped you. Are you able to say who it is at all? Or
yes, there's a guy called Morty Lefka. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago.
And what was it, maybe get into, what was it specifically that really helped you overcome those challenges? I know you had to, break some things down, but what was kind of like your aha breakthrough moment? Was there any one piece, or was it kind of a thing that was built up over time?
My aha moment was when I put out my first video without fear. That was a really sublime moment for me, because I was expecting the excuses to kick in. Oh, now's not a good time. I'll do it tomorrow. I need to figure out how to do it better. It should really be perfect before I put it out there, so I don't get any negative judgment about it. But when I put it out there, I really did it for the fun of doing it without adding meanings to it. And this is what changed things for me, because I thought, if I can do this, then I can do a whole load more. And it seemed as if where I'd had a very blinkered way of looking at life, suddenly I was looking at life I was looking at a wider landscape of what was available to me. And that really helped me to start seeking out challenges and taking bigger risks, not just in my business, but in life. Because once I'd shaken, this is one of the big things that trips us up. We worry a lot about what people think about us, and we will go out of our way to avoid those situations where we can feel vulnerable and we feel like we can be attacked by other people. Now, it's not to say I don't care what people think about me at all. I do, of course I do, to a certain extent. But I stopped allowing that to dictate my decisions. Where before I felt that things had to be perfect before I did anything, now I thought, okay, it just has to be good enough to put it out, then I can tweak it as I go along. That was a revelation for me. And I have so many clients who don't do things because they believe they have to do things perfectly. There's a real fear of rejection in the entrepreneurial world. And, the mantra is, take imperfect action, because you'll get some results. And what we're looking for as entrepreneurs are results. But if we don't ever put anything out there, or we don't engage, then we're never going to get any feedback on how we're doing. And the feedback, the results, is what helps us to move forwards.
There's definitely a skill set to be said for somebody who's an entrepreneur. It's not for the faint of heart, for sure. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. You have to just start and put some things out there and get that feedback loop going. So, is what I'm doing working, but you can't be afraid for it. It just can't be perfect. Nothing really is. It's good to strive to try to get there, but you just got to get it going there. For you, when you started it in 2005, we really didn't have, email was still new to a lot of people, and social media wasn't really the monster that it is today in a good way, right? How did you manage those? You're going to get you said you're going to get a lot of feedback. You're going to get positive feedback, negative feedback. And obviously, this has been a good personal journey for you, but how did you initially manage this influx of, I'm sure you had a lot of different posts and messages and things of both sides of the spectrum, from the people that are angry at something and mad and whatever, and all the way to the positive. How did you manage that from that then till today?
The way that I manage feedback is to not attach meaning to it. And funny enough, I get very little negative feedback. Or if I do get it, I just don't see it. What I try and do is take things down to basics. If someone says something negative about me, it's not about me, it's about them and where they are in that moment and what their thinking is. I'm not the cause of anything negative that's said about me. That person is the cause of something negative. Now, if I've hurt someone, of course they can say something negative about me. The stuff I put out there is not meant to hurt anyone. So if someone feels negative or they say something negative, I don't blame myself. I just think, well, they're having a bad day. There's something that's not going right for them. And because I don't attach any meaning to it, it doesn't bother me. So it's not the actual event that can cause our suffering. It's always about the meaning that we make up, the story we make up about that event, about that person that causes all the suffering. Once I realized that, this was a groundbreaking moment for me, because I thought, okay, well, I can't control what people say and do, but I can control the stories that I make up about things. And this takes a lot of discipline. It doesn't happen overnight. And often I slip back into my old ways of thinking. But my awareness is really, really sharp, because I've been doing this for years and years now. And it's not about mind control, because how can we control our mind every second of the day? It's not possible. It will be exhausting to do that. But it's to catch things early. So when I go into a negative spiral of thinking, I catch it. And then I use a peace process to help me to disrupt that negative thinking as quickly as possible so it doesn't take hold. This has really helped me to build up my resilience. So when I have a setback, I bounce back much more quickly. Sure, I lick my wounds, I feel sorry for myself, and then I'm back up and running again. So something that would have taken me out for days or even weeks, a bad result or whatever, now it doesn't take me long to recover from that. And the other key piece is to think, okay, what's the lesson I can get from this? When I'm in a bad thinking loop, I'm not looking for the lesson in anything. I'm just blaming myself, or I'm blaming other people. But as soon as I come out of that, I think, okay, what can I learn from that can move on quickly? So for me, it is about moving on quickly from setbacks. I'm not wasting time. I can just get on with the next thing.
It's really interesting, because the more social media influencers, or the people that have been doing this for a long time, that they talk about, that negative post or positive post, they all starts to say the same thing, like you just said. You can't let the negative comments get to you and not react. But I think more importantly, what you said was, it's not a you problem. It's they're actually having an issue, and you don't know what that issue is. You don't know what just happened on in their lives or why they're angry. And a lot of times, they're hiding behind some handle and you don't know exactly who they are. One thing that I found kind of fun is I've started commenting back to people, but always in a positive way. Like, oh, I appreciate your opinion on that. And, and it's funny, because if they do comment back, they're usually nice on the next one. They're not, if they do that at all. Since you've had some really good business success, and we talk about, actually the beauty of this podcast is I talk about three things that I really enjoy. It's finance, fitness, and positivity. And financial, they all kind of tie together, right? You can have mental fitness, you can have physical fitness. Positive is a great mindset to have. Not letting some of the negative things in there. And then financial fitness and toughness is also good, because that's what helps us survive. For entrepreneurs out there, though, that are starting on the journey, out of those three attributes, which one do you think they should focus on the most, and which one do you think they should focus on the least?
The mindset is the foundation for everything.
I
You
had
could
a
have the
feeling you
most.
were going to say that for some
You
reason.
could have the most. The reason I said this is because you could have the most perfect marketing strategy sitting on your desk, and you can still make every excuse under the sun not to do it today. So it weaves through everything in life. Your mindset, what you think, what you believe is true, what limits you've imposed on yourself. One of my favorite questions is, what is the difference between the most successful entrepreneurs and the ones who aren't as successful? And it's not about the external stuff. It's not about the school or the family or the friends or whatever it is. It is all about what you believe is possible for you. And out of your thinking comes financial success or stagnation. I don't believe you can have sustained financial success without having a mindset that gives you the expectations of being financially successful. Because whatever your expectations are of you, you're going to fulfill those expectations. Say you go beyond those expectations, it's going to get scary. And you can very, very well self-sabotage to get you back into your comfort zone. This is the upper limit, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That very well-known book. As soon as you go past that, you have to raise your mindset to that higher level where it feels normal, because otherwise you will do something to bring yourself back down. The classic example are lottery winners. Yep. So many of them, they lose their wealth, they become deeply unhappy, they've lost relationships, etc. And then they will somehow manage it that they go back to what they had before. It's because they're not mentally equipped to have that level of wealth. They managed to manifest it, but they couldn't sustain it. And this is the difference. So as we want to go to a higher level of success, we have to have the thinking that will sustain us at that higher level of success. I've experienced many times where I've had a record-breaking month in my business, and I can easily go back to what it was before if I don't catch myself. So it's the awareness that comes with doing this work year after year, working with hundreds of clients. It's the awareness that comes, oh, if I'm not careful, I'll self-sabotage it. So I have to do the work in order to make sure I maintain that. So for example, last year I had my first 6-figure month. I didn't work any harder. I didn't do any extra marketing. What I did was, that month or the month before, I said to myself, okay, I keep saying to my clients, you have to have a daily mindset practice. I wasn't doing a daily mindset practice consistently. So I was maybe doing 5 days out of 7, often taking the weekend off. And I thought, okay, so let me just try this as an experiment. If I were to do it every single day and I do everything that I'd ask my clients to do, how far can I go with this? It resulted in a 6-figure month. So then immediately my thinking kicked in, my ego kicked in and said, oh, but I won't be able to maintain this. It's too good to be true. It shouldn't be so easy. So all of this negative stuff kicked in. And so I isolated those limiting beliefs. I dissolved them all because I knew otherwise I could easily slip back and this could be a one-off month. So all of that, I hope I've answered your question. Mindset is the top. It's absolutely the top, because if we don't get that in the right place, if we don't handle it, even if we suddenly see a burst of success, we can lose that impact very, very quickly.
What you just finished on, though, or just right before that, what's interesting is I have recently started putting, I guess my money where my mouth is for how I talk to financial advisors and teach them what to do. I decided to put that into practice. Very similar to your story, where I was kind of shunning away from the spotlight. I was off social media for a number of years just because I didn't want to put myself out there, didn't want to do, stuff to put, in front of the camera, things of that nature. And then recently I know all the things to do. I've been telling people to do it. I've been helping them do it. And finally I decided, I got to start doing this. And since doing that, things quickly change when you actually start putting into practice the things that you're teaching others to do. It's always difficult, and you got to maintain that. And you're right. You start seeing some success based off that too. And it's raising your bar of success, for yourself. So if you've hit your level and now you've hit another level, now you gotta keep raising that above so you don't drop back down. The lottery example is a great example for me, especially having the financial background I have. So let me pivot to that real quick for you. So you wrote a book, and it was with another financial advisor, and to help financial advisors. What got you into that space? The finance space, and I have a good audience of advisors, and obviously I'm working at a financial firm myself. But what's that space that attracted you to it, and maybe touch upon that for me?
Yeah, I fell into it by chance. I had a call with Dan Caprill, who's an amazing financial advisor, very successful, and he teaches other financial advisors how to market to get more clients. So we had a call, and he said that in the system that he was teaching his financial advisors was an amazing system. However, some of them weren't implementing and doing the work, and he knew it was all about their mindset, where they were making excuses not to implement, they were procrastinating, etc. So he asked me to create a training for his clients, a mindset training about how to become a peak performance financial advisor. And in the training, it's all about, identifying limiting beliefs. There's specific limiting beliefs for financial advisors, and a whole host of other mindset work. And he basically, he put that mindset training at the beginning of his course. They had to go through the mindset training first before they started implementing his marketing suggestions and strategies. And so we then thought, okay, we've created this course. Let's write a book to help financial advisors to become more profitable. And so we created this book, and the book is really designed to get to the root cause of why some of them hold back and why they're not as successful as they want to be. So there's loads, it's very practical, very implementable, and very much into strategies that work, which are proven and which are simple to do. So we created that book. Now, financial advisors, I hadn't worked with financial advisors up to this point, but I'd worked with lots of consultants and coaches. And the funny thing was that the financial advisors' challenges were the same as every other entrepreneur I'd ever worked with. Because, we're all people, and we all come up with the same excuses, and we make up the same stories about ourselves. So it wasn't different. The language is a little bit different, but apart from that, it's exactly the same. I work with estate planning attorneys who are growing a financial advisory business on the side. Guess what? It's exactly the same work with each of them, customized to their own unique, challenges. But it all comes down to the same thing. We have to get to the core root of why they're not performing to the level they want to perform to. We've got to isolate, their thinking that's tripping them up, dissolve it, and plant new, fresh thinking in its place, intentional thoughts, which they will use then to propel them forwards. And it takes time. It's not an overnight thing, because there are layers and layers and layers of this stuff. But one of my estate planning attorney clients, growing his financial advisory business, he has gone out on his own. He's become independent, and he wasn't going to do it. And he kept talking himself out of it. And we were on a call, and he said, I've got everything in place. I just have to press the button. And I said, do you want to do it now while we're on the call? And he did it. And in the last 2 weeks, he's brought in over 6 figures worth of new clients. So it's just freeing yourself up, and it's creating new, fresh space in your thinking. And that just attracts the good stuff in life. He didn't work any harder to do this. It's just started flooding in, and he's got a pipeline full of great prospects.
The financial community seems to be a tough community because there's a lot of vocabulary and technical terms and jargon that's used a lot. At the end of the day, you're absolutely right. They're just people, and they have the same issues as any other entrepreneur. I think one of the mindset challenges that I would say they have is probably that they don't really understand that they're an entrepreneur. A lot of the advisors that are having success, they're actually starting to run their practice like a business. But when they first get into it, they're running all over the place, even though they might have a little bit of structure, but they really don't know how. Well, one, they don't know how to market. Two, they don't feel like they have the time. And three, I think, like you said, there's some roadblocks up here that they have to get over. And it's definitely a challenge. And especially those that are working for those big, large firms, and they're thinking that they want to go independent, and they don't realize they can pretty much do it, and they can have a more fruitful life, and they can earn more money, and be on their own schedule. And it's really amazing. But yeah, no, apparently I have a sweet spot for financial professionals as well. But
yes, we share that same sweet spot, and it's all about fears, isn't it? So with financial advisors, you're right. Like, some of them don't really see it as running a business, that they have to market, they have to learn how to sell. So maybe, they don't know this when they're starting out, but you can waste a lot of time. One of my financial advisor clients said he wasted 10 years because he didn't know how to sell.
Yeah.
And that is a crying shame. So having the confidence to reach out to people and to follow up with people and put yourself out there and learn how to market, it's tough for a lot of entrepreneurs because we're all very good at delivering our service. And then suddenly we find we have to be good marketers, we have to be good salespeople, we have to be good at tech, we have to be good at, managing our business and doing all the admin. And suddenly we have to wear all these different hats. And it is a roller coaster. It really is, because we're learning stuff at the beginning. We don't want to delegate anything because we think we haven't got the money to do that. So it's the few who really make it to the top, who have that resilience, who have that big vision. You have to have a big vision and believe in yourself, have that self-belief, because there are so many things that go wrong. There are so many setbacks along the way that it's very easy to not give up, but to settle for less and think, well, this is as far as I can go. It's okay. I'm making a decent living. I've got a roof over my head, but it's not enough. And there's a part of, I would say, every entrepreneur that thinks, if I'd really applied myself, if I'd done what I knew I needed to do every single day, I would have had a much bigger business. So it's that feeling that there's an opportunity being missed by staying stuck in that small thinking.
I think they're missing many opportunities if they're stuck in that way of thinking, especially in today's environment where we have so much access to so many other people. And you're absolutely right. One of the things I've seen with a lot of advisors I've run across, one, they don't have a selling process. They don't realize that just being themselves is half the battle, really. I mean, you can have a structured sales process when somebody walks in the door and you make sure that they have a warm cup of coffee and you say the same things and you fill out the same forms. I mean, I think all that you can get over time anyways, but if somebody gives you a process and say, this is where it's at, that's not necessarily what's going to close business. It's actually coming down to that person themselves, right? And it's down to how they perceive themselves and how confident they are in order for other people to want to work with them. Because ultimately, if they're going to trust you with their money, they got to be able to trust you as an individual person. So
absolutely. Yeah, it is the outreach piece which stumps a lot of people because they feel scared of reaching out to people in case they're looking needy, they're looking desperate. People will think, well, you're interrupting me. So there's lots and lots of reasons that people don't do the outreach, but the outreach is the quickest way to have a conversation. And as we know, conversations lead to clients. So that's one of the basic pieces of marketing, which a lot of people avoid doing. They don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to email people. They don't want to text. They will make lots and lots of excuses not to do that basic thing. And it's really interesting because when I speak to them and to figure out why it is that they're not doing that outreach, what's stopping them from doing it, it comes down to feelings of unworthiness. It comes down to feelings of I can't face rejection. Also, there's this feeling that if I'm putting myself out there, then that means that people can take pot shots at me and I don't want to get hurt again. So there's such basic self-esteem stuff going on in there, which stops them from getting more clients. It's a crying shame because if this stuff is dealt with, and you are reaching out on a regular basis, then you're going to have a good business. Logically, if you were to reach out to 5 people a day, you're going to be setting up calls. Some of those calls are going to become clients. Your profits are going to go up. It's absolutely logical. And when you look at it, it's such a simple strategy, but so many people aren't doing it. And the ones who are doing it are the ones who are really growing their businesses. So when you look at the difference between very successful financial advisors and ones who aren't as successful, it comes down to the outreach.
It's almost like even if you're trying to build up your social media presence, it's like just a little bit each day can, grow a heck of a lot the further down the road you go, So yeah, I absolutely understand that. Well, I know we're getting closer on time here. We got about another 10 plus minutes. And I wanted to ask you this question. So have you ever had a really difficult client that just wouldn't be able to, hasn't worked out, or maybe they're not grasping what you're trying to tell them? And can you share that experience at all? This is off the cuff.
Yes.
I put this in there, but just thought about it because we all have had difficult clients, but obviously don't name them by name. But
I had a client recently. She's a consultant starting her own consultancy. And so we were talking about outreach, exactly this thing. We were talking about the strategy and LinkedIn strategy. We got together her messaging. So just send it out to people on LinkedIn, send it out to your network and just get some feedback from the market. Because I said, you and I can put together a message and think it sounds good, but the market will give you feedback on it. So all she had to do was just send out this message out to her network for feedback. And she was resisting doing it. And then she came on the following week, we had our call. And she said, I was telling my trash man about how difficult it was to send out this message to my network. And she said, he said to me, so let me get this right. All you have to do is send out a couple of sentences to a few people. That's all you have to do. And she went, yeah. And he went, oh, okay. And she thought, all I have to do is send out a couple of sentences to a few people. And she suddenly saw it for what it was. That's all she had to do. And what he said to her, he somehow just got through to her, and it stripped away all the negative meaning that she'd associated with sending out these messages to her network. And so on the call, she said, I realized that's all you were asking me to do. And it's actually quite simple to do. So this is going back to what we were saying earlier. We load actions with our meanings. Oh, if I send out messages, people will think this, they'll think this about me, they'll think this negative thing about me, so I can't do it. But we take away the meaning and then we look at the action and think, that's all I have to do. It's really simple. And we know so many times when we put off doing something and then we're eventually backed into a corner, we have to do it. Afterwards, we think, well, that wasn't so difficult. Why did I make such a big deal out of it? That thinking is exhausting. It takes up so much headspace. So the more we can dissolve that thinking, then we will just be able to take action so much easier.
I think about, I actually heard this phrase a long time ago, but I was listening to this while I was running, and it was, what happens if I actually complete this? What happens if I actually do this? And the end result could be something really positive. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll keep running, don't want to quit after a mile when my goal is 5 miles, right? Or the other question is, well, what happens if I quit? Well, if I quit, I'm not getting in shape, I'm not hitting my goal. And I think about those two parallels all the time. I mean, the worst case scenario, best case scenario, everything happens the way you want it and you're successful at it. Okay, well, that's great. That's a very big upside. The downside is you don't get any further. And what's the point of doing that whenever you're starting, a journey or starting to do a process? Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. Well, sometimes you just need that extra voice too, and the trash guy, he might be looking at it and saying, look, this is a tough job. What you have to do is not tough. Just do it. That might have been the kick in the butt she needed, right?
Yeah. And what I found was great was that she was telling her trash man about this.
She was looking for market feedback, clearly, right?
It's great.
Look, I work with advisors too. And a lot of times it's a simple exercise, and this is how you're going to get moving. Let's start with something simple. Same thing with clients. When you start getting to individual clients, you have to do things and you make it simple, just so that way they don't have to jump into the deep end right away. I think that's just how we are as most human beings and entrepreneurs. I think if you had a full full-blooded entrepreneur, as a client, I think they're just jumping in head first. Whatever you say, Nina, okay, good, let's go.
Yes.
Bust that door down.
Absolutely. And I have clients who will implement and they say, give me more to do. And it is joyful to watch their growth because they just don't let these barriers get in the way. And there are no barriers. There are no external barriers. All the barriers are within their heads and they're just jumping over them. And it's so wonderful to watch their progress.
Absolutely. Well, since we're kind of nearing the end here, I wanted to ask this question to you, and I believe you might have asked this question to me, but always like to figure out what people are reading. And so what are some of the books, or what's a book that you would recommend to everyone out there, either on it'd be finance, fitness, positivity, whichever topic you like? What would be one of your favorites?
I love this book. It's by an English guy called Andy Bounds, who is an amazing, amazing salesperson. He advises some top companies. And he wrote this book a while back. It's called The Jelly Effect, How to Make Your Communication Stick. His way of explaining this is to talk about the afters. How will your client feel after they've worked with you? And he said, if you can nail the afters, you've got some big benefits to sell. So it's fantastic, very detailed, lots of great information, very implementable. I interviewed him on my podcast when I first started my podcast, and he was wonderful, wonderful, generous man.
Oh, well, I will definitely, I love finding new books too. So that's another reason why I like this question. So I will check it out. Well, Nina, it's been a pleasure having you on here. Where can people find you if they want to work with you, if they want to contact you, all that fun stuff?
Well, they can find me at my website, ninacooke.co.uk, or they can email me. I love getting emails. It's nina@ninacooke.co.uk.
All right. Well, Nina, thank you very much for being on here. It was a pleasure. I had a lot of fun and learned some interesting things. This is definitely a good positivity portion of the podcast. And be sure to check out more for finance, fitness, and positivity. Joseph Gissy and Nina Cooke. Thanks, Nina.
Thank you.